Hello, my name is Libby. I'm with the Catholic aid agency CAFOD, and we're here today to tell you why your tea may not be as fair as you imagined. Now, we're outside the Queen Elizabeth II Centre with the Sainsburys AGM that's going on right now, and we're out here to try and get fair. We're trying to get Sainsbury's to bring back fair trade tea. Now, you might be wondering what we mean, so we're going to kind of explain that through today. But first, we want to bring in my colleague Liam here. Liam has two mugs here. He's got mug A and mug B. Now, one of these mugs has a tea that is certified that people would be getting the fair wage, a fair price for their tea that they produce, and then we have another mug that cannot guarantee that that they will get a fair price for their tea. So what we want you to do is we want you to try and guess which tea is actually the fair trade tea, and which one isn't. If you think it's mug A, click on your heart button. If you think it's mug B, can you click your wow button? We will reveal which one is the fair trade tea near the end of the show. And so now we're going to kind of explain to you why exactly we're out here, why fair trade tea matters, and what Sainsbury's is doing to their fair trade, what they're replacing it with. So we have over here, we have Lucinda, who she works with our media team at CAFOD. I'm going to hand over my very fancy mic to you in a minute. Can you just explain to us briefly what exactly is what Sainsbury's up to with fair trade? What are they replacing fair trade tea with?
Okay, so Sainsbury's currently is one of the biggest purchasers of fair trade products, which is brilliant. But what Sainsbury's have said is that they are going to, for their own branded tea, this is their red label tea, they are going to drop the fair trade mark, and instead they are going to launch something that they are calling fairly traded, but it isn't fair trade certified, and we can't be sure that it's going to have the same standards for farmers and for producers as fair trade tea.
Okay, so what's the difference though between fair trade and fairly traded? Why does it matter?
So the way that fair trade products work is that farmers and producers get given a fair price for their goods, but on top of that they get paid a fair trade premium, and that money is the communities themselves and the producers themselves decide how that money is spent. And it could be that they put that money into healthcare, they could build local schools, they could put the money into infrastructure like roads in their local communities, so it really helps communities develop.
Right.
What Sainsbury's have said is that under their fairly traded scheme, they will still pay that premium, but rather than farmers and producers themselves being in control of how that money is spent, it's the Sainsbury's Foundation who would decide how that money is spent.
Right.
Now, for CAFOD, we think that's a bad thing, because we think that people should be masters of their own destiny, and it should be up to communities themselves to decide how they want to develop and how they should spend the money that they get given for their goods.
Right, okay, so it's kind of taking the power away from the farmers.
That's
right.
The real concern with the fairly traded scheme. There's still a lot that's unclear about how it would work, but the main concern for us is that it's taking power away from those people in developing countries.
Okay, wow. Okay, so if you have any comments, or if you have anything that you want to say to Sainsbury's, go ahead and put them in the comments below. We do actually, there's a petition right now that's calling for Sainsbury's to change back to fair trade for their own label tea. I think that's also going to be in the comments below, isn't it, guys? So just looking at my helpful colleagues here. Yeah, so it'll be in the comments below. Go ahead and sign the petition, and also give us any kind of comments or questions that you have in the comments. So do we have any questions? Not yet? Okay, that's all right. We've only just started, guys. I think it might be really helpful. If you see today, we're in some really great outfits here for teas. So if we could, if I don't know if any of the other tea bags are available to talk. I don't think they are at the moment. We're doing. It's all live, guys. We're just trying to find out why maybe some people have participated today. But in the meantime, so I think what we'll do is we'll go ahead and reveal which mug was the fair trade mug and which one was the fairly traded. So there we go, and it's mug A. Well, did anybody have the right answer?
Well, we'll find out later, and you'll win your prize. But this mug, this is Sainsbury's Fairtrade Earl Grey tea. So they're keeping Fairtrade on certain teas, but this is Sainsbury's Red Label tea, and this is what they're describing as fairly traded. But the thing is, we can't have the same confidence that that meets the same standards as Fairtrade tea. So that's why we're asking Sainsbury's not to ditch Fairtrade tea.
Right, so we've heard why fair trade is important, and right now we've got some people who are in the Queen Elizabeth Centre who are going to ask these questions that are really important for shareholders to be thinking about with fair trade and the future of fair trade with Sainsbury's. I'm just looking over. I think we've lost our tea bags now, so I don't think we can really ask anybody why they're dressed. But if you have any more questions or if you have any comments, go ahead and add them in the comments below, and we'll be out here trying to make fair trade a real thing for tea.
So if you can remember, please share this video, and please leave your comments below the video so we can get back to you. And remember to put pressure on Sainsbury's to go back with fair trade. Libby's going to explain again why we're calling for Sainsbury's to make their tea fair trade again, and we're going to answer some of your questions in 1 second.
Right, so the reason why we're calling on Sainsbury's to make their own brand fair trade again instead of their fairly traded brand is because fair trade is a way of certifying that tea producers and farmers will be able to get their the fair price for their produce or for their tea, so that we can be sure that that money goes to the communities and they can spend that how they want. The way it works is that not only do they get a fair price, but they also get this premium that goes along with it, which is basically an additional sum of money, and that means that they can spend that in development however they feel best. Now, CAFOD works in partnership, so we listen to what our partners want and how they find it best to develop. So communities can use that money, for instance, to spend on schools, or they can spend it on hospitals, however, infrastructure, whatever they feel they need. The problem with fairly traded from Sainsbury's is that sum of money, that additional premium, unfortunately isn't decided how it's spent by the farmers, but it's decided by Sainsbury's. So it's a little bit more complicated. And also, I just have to say, it's a little confusing, fair trade and fairly traded. I nearly hiccuped there and said fairly traded. And that's confusing for consumers. So it's a little tricky for consumers to figure out what they want to purchase. And I think we do have a question over here.
That's right. We've got some comments here. So thank you to Valda, who said well done the tea bags. You might have seen if you were watching the broadcast earlier, and if not, then watch it afterwards when we finished here. We had people dressed as tea bags, and that's to try and draw attention to the fact that Sainsbury's is shifting on its red label and gold label teas from fair trade to what they're calling fairly traded tea. But we can't have the same confidence that that does meet those strict fair trade guarantees. We've also got a comment from Margaret. Thank you for that, Margaret. She's saying, I do hope Sainsbury's are listening to you. Well done for your campaign. So thank you for that. And please continue to put pressure on Sainsbury's, Margaret. We've got Jules saying, we love what you're doing. Thank you, Jules. And we've also got Steve, who's saying that Sainsbury's have been claiming that all fair trade is first for years, but the other shops have been doing fair trade as well. So that's something we have to bear in mind. And we also want to make clear that it's important that Sainsbury's, which is one of the biggest fair trade retailers in the world, that it sets an example to other retailers so that they don't drop the ball as well. So I think I'll hand back to Libby, and we'll just reiterate why we're here again. And then if you've got any more questions, please do leave them to us.
Right, yeah. So just to reiterate, we're outside the Queen Elizabeth II Centre in London for the Sainsburys AGM, which is happening now. And the reason why we're out here is to try and persuade Sainsbury's to change their own label, their red label and their gold label tea back to fair trade. Right now they're oh, there we go. We've got a reveal here. Right now they're trading it as fairly traded, which isn't the same as fair trade, even though it sounds similar to it. And what we've been discussing is the differences between the two. This fairly traded isn't the same, well, we're not sure about the same standards that it will be certified, whereas fair trade has been around since 1992, so 25 years old. It's long established, and people know what the standards are for fair trade. We know that it means that that farmers are given a fair price for their tea, that they're given this additional premium that they can use in their own communities however they see fit. We don't have those same guarantees with Fairly Traded as yet, and we want to be sure that Sainsbury's is backing a certification for the tea that we know is a just and a fair certification. So do we have any more comments?
We do, Libby. We've got a comment here from Mark who's asking, what's the difference between fairly traded tea and fair trade tea? And this is one of the things that's quite difficult, it's quite nuanced, and we need to explain this. Fair trade tea, we've got that assurance, we've got that confidence that workers and producers are paid a fair wage and that they work in fair conditions, and that they also have a sum of money on top of that, which is called the fair trade premium. And that's a sum of money that they can use and decide how to use in their communities. The issue with fairly traded tea, which is what Sainsbury's are calling their new red label and gold label tea, not all their teas, just their red label and gold label tea for the time being, is that we don't have that assurance. We don't have the confidence that it meets those same standards. And the other issue is that with that social premium, with that top-up payment that those communities receive, that will be decided, the way that is spent, the way that is spent will be decided by Sainsbury's. We don't think that's fair. And this is an issue for CAFOD as well, because CAFOD is very, very strong about our partnership model, the way that we work with communities. We don't make decisions for communities. We think that it's very, very important that decisions about what goes on in local areas are made in local areas. We can't have that guarantee with the Sainsbury's fairly traded scheme. With fair trade, as we've said before, we know that those decisions on how that premium will be spent are made in the local community. We don't know that will be the case with Sainsbury's fairly traded tea.
Great, thanks, Liam. Do we have any other questions that maybe we can answer? Any other comments?
We've got a couple of comments here. We've got one from Ruth who's saying, very disappointed Sainsbury's. I'm a regular customer, but I'm reconsidering this. We've got one from Sean who's saying, well done CAFOD and Oxfam for holding Sainsbury's to account today. And Lynn, who says, glad you're raising this with Sainsbury's. Thanks. So thanks to everybody who's been getting in touch with us on Facebook Live about this. What we're going to do now, we're going to wrap up. But if you've got any more questions, then please do drop them in the comments below. Please share the video with your friends to spread the message. And please get in touch with us if you've got any more questions. So thank you very much for joining us today. Thank you to Libby and everyone who dressed up as tea bags to protest against what Sainsbury's is doing. Just to reiterate, what we're saying is that Sainsbury's is piloting what it calls a fairly traded tea scheme on its red and gold label tea. But we can't have the same confidence that that meets the standards of fair trade. So we've been protesting against that. As we say, please share the video, please get in touch, and thank you for watching.
Thank you, bye.